Thank you, and welcome to ALPA's Board of Directors meeting in Las Vegas. I originally said Fort Lauderdale here, but I hope everyone's had been able to pivot from the original plan and find their way here relatively easily. It's kind of appropriate, in a way, to finish my term up with a last-second change like this. It seems like there's been change ever since the four of us set foot in the office. We saw a government shutdown, the max grounding, and then we had a whole industry just about shut down with the pandemic, prompting a change in how the entire world lives their lives. So a last-minute change from Florida to Vegas? Easy. Before I talk a little bit about my 4 years as a national officer, let me provide you with a brief financial update of the association. I've had the opportunity over the past 2 years to report to the Executive Council, the Executive Board, but not to you. I'm truly honored to have the chance to address you about the finances of this great association. As you can see here, ALPA managed to register a net surplus of $62.2 million last year while the pandemic was raging. As a reminder, in 2020, the surplus totaled $87.8 million. Both in 2020 and 2021, our income benefited greatly from the Payroll Protection Plan, as well as significant decreases in travel, meeting, and flight pay loss expenses caused by the pandemic shutdown and the move to virtual meetings. During the latter months of 2021, the association started holding in-person meetings again and returning to standard business, causing minor increases in expenses for the year. Next, we look at our numbers year-to-date for 2022, up through August 31st. We are currently operating at a deficit of $19.4 million, but if you look closer, it's clear why. Investments. As any of you who have been watching your own 401ks or other investments, you know it's been a rough couple of quarters. Our dues income is trending back up to pre-pandemic levels and beyond, and while our expenses have increased, that $44 million decrease in investment values is the primary cause for our current deficit. While our investments have fallen less than the markets in general due to our conservative investment strategies, they've fallen nonetheless. However, we remain in it for the long term, so we certainly expect that to turn around. Here you see the numbers for the administrative and support account, or ANS. Our actual income has outpaced our budgeted income in this area, but at the same time, our actual expenses have also trended a bit higher. But please note on this table, the decrease in investment values was, as we just discussed, are reflected in the expense totals and comprise 30% of the year-to-date actual expense amount shown here. The increased costs in other expense categories are more closely related to inflation. Inflation had a significant impact to the cost of everything, including items, especially everyday items, but especially in spending categories that we are now bouncing back from with the pandemic. Think airfare, hotels, fuel. Supply chain disruptions, including worker shortages experienced by various industries, have contributed to a significant increase in prices. Here's a good look at the trip we've taken for the past 4 years. In order, you see budgeted dues, actual dues, budgeted expenses, and actual expenses for 2019, 2020, 2021, and year-to-date for 2022. The first thing I want to point out here is our dues remaining relatively stable throughout, due in large part to the CARES Act, and while other variables moved up and down, I want to pause at this moment here just to repeat to the Board of Directors something I said to multiple executive boards and to your MEC chairs. The efforts of our pilot volunteers and staff working together to lobby for important worker-focused provisions in the CARES Act and to lobby for 3 iterations of the payroll support program were beyond amazing. We are on firm ground financially right now because of their work. Without the support they gained for us, I don't know how ALPA or the airline industry would be right now. Every one of us owes a debt of gratitude to those who participated in that important effort. Going back to the slides, even though actual dues revenue remained roughly the same, you see the wild fluctuations in other areas caused by the pandemic. We budgeted significantly lower in 2021, our first budget created with the pandemic in mind, because we weren't at the time guaranteed any support. Even though the support came and dues revenue remained high, you can see our expenses dropped significantly for both 2020 and 2021. That's due to the lack of travel and in-person meetings and a hiring freeze on staff. Finally, looking at the year-to-date of 2022, you see again how our dues are outpacing the budget, but our expenses are as well. These expenses include in-person events like this one, filling vacant staff positions, and adding new staff to 12 adding new staff to handle the 12 new properties that have joined ALPA in the past 4 years. This one slide provides perhaps the best evidence of how ALPA has been able to rebuild and recapitalize through sound financial judgment and get through the pandemic. We first showed this slide in 2018 to demonstrate the improvements in just 6 years. In just 4 more years, we've added to those improvements tremendously. In addition to the increase in the MBC cumulative balances, this chart shows the continued emphasis on recapitalizing both the OCF and the MCF, our operating and major contingency funds. Both funds have increased greatly just in the last 2 years, reflecting the priority that ALPA has placed upon them. This chart clearly shows the continuing growth of the operating contingency fund. Having that fund having this fund available is truly one of the benefits of joining our association. So kudos to everyone for their work in making sure that this important resource remains available when needed. The same goes for the MCF, the Major Contingency Fund. As you can see here, the MCF has dipped slightly in the past year, and that's not unexpected. Part of it is due to investments, and part of it is due to newly implemented usage. The MCF Contract Implementation Program is just one of the many updates suggested in the past few years by the Structures, Services, and Financial Review Committee, or SAFER. This program provides a grant to every MEC for 1 year after signing a new collectively bargained agreement to help the implementation and grievance process. No application, no questions. Too often, MECs didn't have funds to back up their hard work to get a good contract, and using the MCF to support this important endeavor is proving to be a very valuable addition. And of course, past recommendations that have been adopted include providing funding for volunteer work, attending ALPA courses, updating our spending and reimbursement limits to match today's costs, and distributing MEC funds if airlines go out of business to pilots that suddenly lose their jobs. We have made a lot of improvement updates to our financial policies over just a few years, and I'm hopeful that those efforts continue in the future. Finally, let's talk about the budget. As a reminder, ALPA's bylaws dictate the way we distribute our dues dollars, as seen in this slide. Here you see the 2023 budget. The total budget income is $233 million, which is back on track for where we were pre-pandemic. While we are still budgeting conservatively, we can still acknowledge the expected growth and improvement. The pie chart you see here is broken up according to percentages I just showed you. With the amounts on the right taken off the top before, the remaining total is divided amongst the MECs, ANS, OCF, and the LECs. I can't tell you how proud I am in reporting that we're back on track for where we were pre-pandemic. It's been a very busy 4 years in office, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. So now the technical part of my presentation is done. I just wanted to take a few more minutes of your time, and I know you've been sitting there a long time. to talk about the personal side of my 4 years. The problem with going last is much of this stuff has already been said, but I'll try to put a different spin on it. And following Bill's remarks, it may be hard. I mean, he brought his mom. How cool is that, you know? But after 16 years of doing this job, he could bring anybody he wants. I'll say one more thing about finances, and that has to do to the campaign promise I made to you guys 4 years ago. Back then, I heard from you that dues were too high and that we were sitting on a pile of money that somehow had to find its way back to the pilots. My promise then was to find ways to do just that. The dues were set to start down at the start of my term due to the great work that started at the executive board and the leadership of a few MEC chairmen there. Along with that change came the SAFER committee. And as a new VP of Finance, I had the chance to select who I wanted on that committee, and I think I did pretty well. Some of them are on this stage with me today, and I can't say enough about them. Along with the staff from the finance team, we were tasked with looking at ALPA finances and finding new ways to get services to our pilots. As typically happens, when you do good work, they find more things for you to do. As I mentioned earlier, we were given numerous tasks over the past 4 years that yielded great ideas that all pilots have benefited from. I'll challenge the next VP of Finance to continue to find better ways to use our money and to make sure the every MEC benefits. We often say that ALPA is pilot-run and staff-supported. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge these great people I get to work with every day. Many of you have heard me say it before, but it cannot be said enough. They are the most dedicated, knowledgeable, and just plain fun people to work with. Just the fact that we're here today, only 3 weeks to pivot from Florida to here, is all you need to know about the dedication of these people. I will also be sure to remind the next VP of Finance about the great assets they will have to work with. To all the staff that are here and those who are not, I'll look forward to the chance when we get together in December to really thank you. So this may be the last opportunity I have to publicly thank the finance team, and I know many of you are here today, all led by Beth Robinson. Thank you all for keeping me honest, telling me when I was wrong, and when I was right, supporting my decisions. You've all made this great job even greater. And this didn't happen in my room when I was practicing. Lastly, while they're not here, I'd like to thank my family for supporting this, for all the ALPA work that I've done. I've spent countless dinners and family vacations on the phone and with the phone in my ear, even once while putting on a mini golf course. My wife, Janet, has truly been the star of this team. She married an airline pilot, which in and of itself was bad enough, but then she inherited ALPA work. My daughters, Ellie and Hannah, when I started doing ALPA work, they were just little girls who fell asleep on a floor of a hospitality suite in Hawaii. They are now beautiful, successful women who I could not be more proud of. But they have listened to this union stuff for about 20 years. They've learned the importance of workers' rights and what a good union can do for your family. I remind them all the time never to forget that and what they've learned as they make management decisions in their careers. Speaking of family, I know some of you brought your family here to say thank you for all they put up with. Although I actually heard a spouse say, "Really, Las Vegas? Is that how you say thank you?" But please say thank you as often as you can. The people who support us don't get their names in the ALPA magazine. You won't find them anywhere in a Section 6 negotiation. But without them and their support, none of this gets done. I've been truly blessed to have been mentored by great ALPA volunteers along the way. And one of my mentors passed along some sage advice, and one thing I'll always remember. He said, when you do ALPA work, do it to make people's lives better and treat everyone the same. I hope I've done that over the past, and specifically, I hope I've done that over my career, but specifically over the past 4 years. I also hope that I've been able to give some back to the younger people who I've worked with. And just walking around this BOD for the last week, I am so encouraged to see so many young faces. I mean, really young faces. Have you guys met Adam Spurrier? He's the newest ALPA FIFA Departure Committee Chair, and I really feel like I need to give him a hug and tell him to have a great day at school. But it's bright and really sorted out people like Adam who we need to look to for the future. We always need to be building our bench. I've often talked about ALPA friendships being a little different, but for those of you that I've had the privilege to call my friend, I thank you and will cherish you forever. So this may have been the longest speech I've ever given in 4 years, but I think I have a little time in the bank, and when I think of some of yours, Joe, so. So Wednesday, you all will have to make decisions that will guide this union for the next 4 years. Having been through this process, my best advice to you is please limit the politics and really try to pick the best people and the best team. And speaking of teams, I'd like to thank my team. Thank you, Joe, for your leadership over the past 4 years. It's been incredible. Enjoy flying your new airplane, and please be careful. Russ, I know you're down there. You are truly the glue that kept this team together. Your ability to keep us focused and on task was more important than we ever imagined. Bill Coet, my brother from another mother. You define the ALPA mustache that the rest of us only aspire to. It's been truly a pleasure working for you for over 20 years, and especially this term. I've learned so much from your knowledge of ALPA. Your dedication to the pilots of ALPA is unmatched, and the lives of everyone here today and everybody who will come after are better because of you. Bob Fox. Quite possibly the hardest working and most prepared person I have ever met. For the past 4 years, I've tried to emulate your work ethic, and I've only scratched the surface. Your friendship and advice has meant the world to me, and I hope our paths continue to cross for many years. So in closing, I hope I left this place a little better than I found it. My time here has been the most incredible experience that I would ever have, and I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you for your work and your support.